let's not waste your time. Here is 4 ways that you can actually improve your production today. Learn some type of music theory. FL Studio has lots of tools which enable you to use different scales and stay in key. Some of them include literally pasting the scales that you can follow, but learning some sort of musical theory, why certain chords work together, why certain melodies sound the way they do, what kind of notes can give you different feelings, will elevate your beats. This obviously isn't a 5-minute process to learn, and you don't have to learn the full extent of music theory, but having some sort of knowledge will help. What I'd recommend doing is starting a new beat with some sort of intent behind it. Let's say this beat, you want it to be a dark kind of beat, you want it to be a scary beat. That is your intent behind the beat. You can obviously have it to be like a J. Cole type beat, but you want it to be a scary J. Cole type beat. So then you would find certain music theory elements that coincide with scary feelings. Now this could be like dissonance, for example, where the notes are played right next to each other, and that gives it a very dark kind of feeling already. The next tip is to experiment and avoid distractions. That means when you sit down to make your beat, let's say you set out an hour or 2 hours to make a beat, turning off your phone, making sure there's no other distractions so you can lock in and channel that creative energy. Now what experiment means is trying out different things you wouldn't normally do. Let's say you've been producing for a little while, you kind of get stuck in this loop. You get stuck in making certain types of things because you're confident you can do them. What I recommend is trying something different. Let's say you always start your beat out with a piano and you always start with a G minor chord. Try starting with the drum, try starting with percussion, try using a sample, try starting with bass, try using the weirdest sound imaginable and making it sound good for the beat. Like for example, I've made beats with inhalers, glass, many things, and they've actually elevated the beat more than it's made it sound worse. This is because I stepped outside of my comfort zone and it paid off. Now sometimes it won't always pay off, but it's better to try and experiment than not at all. This next one is collaborating with other producers and being able to take constructive criticism. There's a difference between hate and constructive criticism. A lot of people online will just put this sounds shit, right, with no explanation. They just don't like it for whatever reason. That's not gonna help you. That's the type of stuff you need to ignore because it's not gonna help you. Like the beat actually might be terrible, but just reading that is shit is not gonna help you. The criticism you need to take is the people that write, you know, a big paragraph for you and they're like, yeah, so this is what you've done well, but this is what needs work. Because none of you watching is perfect at making beats. There's always something you can improve upon, and if someone tells you you can improve upon something, it's best to check, to double check, to verify, to see if you're actually lacking in that part and see if their advice is worth it. Now, not every advice on the internet's gonna be correct because people like to think they know what they're talking about when they don't, but some people actually know what they're talking about and could genuinely benefit your production tremendously just by trying out their advice, at least reading it. And that doesn't mean completely switching up your morals and your whole process of making beats because one dude said something. With collaborating with other producers, you'll be able to see their kind of workflow and how they produce, and there might be little things that they do that can actually benefit you. Collaborating with people, not only in production, but in like my music, my artistry, that is genuinely tremendously improved it because I wasn't just stuck in my own box of producing. I can see other methods and other ways to do it and what they've done good and what they need to work on as well. Now, the final one I would say is using a reference track, studying a producer, studying an artist. Now, the way I like to do this is I like to find a beat that I closely represents my track. So we're going to use this as our reference track. So we'll place it in our DAW and we'll think of the key elements. So let's say this one had a really nice piano and a really nice drum, and the beat was at 86 BPM, something like that. We put our project at 86 BPM and we'd build our drums in a similar pattern. And then with the piano, we'd not copy the melody, we'd just use it as a reference. So we'd use those similar instruments and we can build from that. Now, if you're not at the level where you're able to create your own things yet, what I would do is I'd get the same reference track, put it at the same BPM, but genuinely try and rebuild that production from the ground up. What this will do is it will show you certain things that producers do, and it's also a challenge trying to do the whole sound selection process, finding what sounds, finding what keys work, finding the bass notes, finding everything else, and that can tremendously help your improvement. That is probably my number one tip. That's what's gotten me to go from, you know, making these trash beats to making like better beats. just from being able to do that. So yeah, try rebuilding these beats. Don't market them as your own, but rebuild these beats, and yeah, go from there. I hope this video helped. I hope you got some sort of tips. I wanted to keep this one really short. Yeah, so I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.